Hello and welcome to The Good, The Bad and The Worst, a podcast where we watch movie trilogies and decide which movie has nothing going to it but a pretty fine collection of pornography. I'm your host Griner, and joining me today...
My name is Conan, and maybe we're in hell.
My name's Luke, and oh no, I've walked in the wrong cube! Ah!
It's good audio material.
Your desk is rising.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. That was good. All right, we're doing the Cube Trilogy. This is a trilogy. No, I won't say a trilogy. The original Cube is a movie that is near and dear to my heart. It's a movie I saw when I was in high school. And what do I say about it? I think I thought I was cool for knowing what Cube was, right? Like, here's this small budget horror movie that nobody else has ever heard of. I picked it up as a random, weekly rental from the video store, and now I'm going to show this shit to everyone because this is cool as. Luke, you'd never seen any of these movies before?
No, didn't come across me. I'd never heard of these films before, other than every time you've brought them up. Hey, have you seen Cube?
Cube's a big part of my personality. What can I say?
So no, I have not.
Conan?
Yeah, so no, similar to you. Me and my sister saw this movie around about. So we saw these when Cube 2 I must have seen when it was like a new release or something. So around about that time. So they're still pretty modern or too recent at the time. But similar deal, I think this is like this grungy kind of low budget horror movie that we weren't really thinking about that, but we thought it was just like the coolest. I don't know, it was just one of those movies we saw that was super cool. Like we have a history of, I don't know if you guys had it, but there was a real trend of like renting those low budget horrors from the video store. And so many of them that I look at now, I'm like, wow, nobody saw this movie. And it's in my mind, I'm like, it was a big deal because we watched it as kids and we're like, oh yeah, like Black Cadillac's one that comes to mind.
Dark City is one for me that comes to mind all the time.
Yeah.
Just this,
and like, these movies, that no one sort of saw, but they had cool covers and cool concepts on the blurb. And they did their job. They were probably really cheaply made and probably made a lot of money on VHS, DVD, rentals and sales. Cube's totally in that. Like, the other trend was like those one-room horror movies. This things like The Platform's one that's reminiscent of it, I think, as well. The recent Netflix movie, but like movie called Exam that came out years and years ago. Similar deal. Like all these sort of high concept, low production horror movies where you can just do one room and go. This is all you need. Like there's an M. Night Shyamalan movie, Devil. They're kind of a tried and true thing.
Haunting with Owen Wilson. Nobody else watched that? That's the only one I've watched that's similar in this genre.
Is Cube the genesis of that kind of movie? Because I was looking up lists of like escape room movies and stuff like that, and everyone had this at the top of the list as like, this is the one that kickstarted it all. And I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, Conan, but this is kind of a cult classic. Like it has over time become, a movie that's much loved by a small group of people, and it kind of is the progenitor for things that came afterwards. Like the one that springs to mind for me is Saw. Like I feel like I feel like it has quite a lot of inspiration from the first Cube movie.
I think you're right. I didn't look this up. I was going to ask you, being the Cube, the resident Cube expert.
Cube head. Call me a Cube blockhead. Cube head.
It's a good one. But that's the vibe I got. Like this was the first one that I could think of.
First one I could find, yeah.
Yeah, and like that makes. I'm sure there is like an Argentinian horror film made in the '60s, set in a small courtroom where it goes. Like I'm sure they exist somewhere, but this would definitely be the first because like '97 this came out, so it's coming off the back of the indie revolution, where you've got all these like young eager filmmakers who are coming up trying to make their things with like low budget indie stuff. Obviously Tarantino's, the big one everyone knows, blah blah blah.
Yep. And
this guy made it, Vincenzo Natali,
yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I don't know what else he's done, but
he's an interesting dude. So think of any like TV show you like, and he's directed at least an episode. He directed 6 episodes of Hannibal.
But no way.
Yeah, he did like I don't know. He did Luke Cage. He did Orphan Black, a show I really loved. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like he's done lots of TV stuff since then. And a few random movies I've heard of, like Cypher.
Oh, he did. Yeah. So he's been working. So yeah, he obviously never reached the heights of some of those other directors, but he's in that same class, I guess, of like just trying to make a film, low budget, high concept. Like this is kind of the bread and butter of indie filmmakers. And in the 90s, you kind of had that like Gen X sensibility still. And this movie really Gen X, like it's got the grungy industrial vibe to it.
Yep.
So I reckon this probably would be the first, and it makes sense. Like it's the simplest of the concepts, right? It's like you're literally in a cube room.
Yeah.
And that's all you need to be like, and that's kind of that indicative of a clever film, at least, or an inspired film of like, what can I do with this concept that is, what's that, 5 words? You're stuck in a cube.
Yeah.
Like, let's see what we can do.
Like, can you think of like a cheaper set to put together? Like, it's very, very smartly done. I think I have a huge respect for Cube.
No, I'm aware.
I'm curious to see what Luke thinks. I think he's not going to love these movies. Let's jump into the stats.
Stats.
Oh, yeah. There's not even any enthusiasm in the stats song. All right, Cube, 1997, budget of $365,000, made $565K. I would take all of these numbers with a grain of salt because they were kind of hard to dig up, and obviously
That would be
box office numbers are weird when it seems to be a DVD.
This is the DVD
seller.
like earnings of this. I think would be exponential, but
Curious,
hundreds
I'd
of
be
dollars,
curious.
hundreds.
piss off.
Cube 2, Hypercube, 2002, $1.4 million budget, $3.5 million at the box office. Cube 0, 2004, $1.2 million budget, $8.9 million at the box office. Critical reception. It was hard to find, Metacritic didn't have all of these, Rotten Tomato didn't have all of these. So I've gone with IMDb. The original Cube, 7.1, Cube 2, 5.5, and Cube 0, 5.6.
Yeah, okay.
Are you surprised by those box office numbers? I don't know. Like I said, I feel like they're kind of a little bit meaningless.
I'm shocked at the third one. Like, was it like 8 million?
That's what I could find. Like I say, I had to go to some random website. It's not listed on IMDb. It's not on the Wikipedia. So I actually had to dig around for it. That was apparently the international box office.
Wait, what year was this? 2004?
2004.
I wonder if this was before or after Saw.
Saw was 2002?
I think Saw was 2004, but I wonder if
2004, sorry, you are correct.
Yeah, I just wonder, what month? Because if this was after Saw, then this would be riding high on that,
I mean, Saw was the 2nd of December 2004, so it was late.
Maybe not. Then I have no idea then. But I am surprised Cube Zero made that much. I assume these were direct-to-DVD sequels, honestly.
Yeah, that was the impression I get. Like I say, I wouldn't put any money, place any bets on these figures being correct, but that's what I could dig up. Let's jump into Cube. A group of strangers awaken to find themselves placed in a giant cube. Each one of them is gifted with a special skill, and they must work together to escape an endless maze of deadly traps. That's just all 3 movies, basically.
Yeah. Don't laugh, Luke. It's a bitchin' concept.
That concept is freaking amazing. Whether this movie completely delivered on the concept, I think there's arguments to be made there. But as a concept for a movie, it's right up my alley. I love movies where people have a special skill, and that's they're there because they have that skill or
their profession.
Like zombie movies do this stuff all the time as well. I love it. It's one of my favorite tropes in horror and action. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, I think it's a great. It lends itself really easily, really naturally to good characterization, right? Where you can just go. Each character has a strength or an archetype. And so you can naturally then be like, well, we're going to write to that, and you can explore the interplay of how these 6 characters, how the sort of hyper-focused cop will play off against the anxious nerd against the. It's pretty easy to do
conspiracy theory believing doctor,
yeah, and then the nihilist kind of misanthrope. It's an easy way to just go. These are all very easily identifiable types. And then watch the interplay work and characterize through that, which is a good way to build drama. The question, I think you said it was right, is if they deliver on these concepts and if they do as much as they should have or could have. I don't know. But yeah, I agree. It's naturally a really fun sort of story to engage with, especially because you've got that mystery there. So why are we in a cube? Well, let's find we love mystery movies. You're there with all the characters. All the ingredients are just really good, basic, low-budget, fun movie making.
Yeah, and the fact that they're kind of in there and there's these numbers, like they're not in there just to be tortured. Someone had a plan. There's some way they can escape. You're kind of cheering for them. You're wanting them to figure out, solve the mystery. Yeah. It totally works for me.
I agree.
Luke. Get it out of your system. I mean, of all the movies you could shit on, surely not this one.
I feel like I'm in a position similar to where Conan was with Mighty Ducks and Home Alone, where without severe nostalgic influence, I can see these movies for what they are, which I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry, Garner. The worst 3 movies I've ever watched in my life.
Oh, get out of here!
Wow, fair enough. 2 and 3. Let's talk about it. Number 1. Did you really dislike number 1 that much?
No. 1. Okay, no. Look, we'll get into which one I think is possibly the worst movie.
Because I might even agree with you, right?
Okay, there is one of them.
Yes.
No, talk shit about Cube 2.
I like the concept. And 100%, I can see Saw completely gets its influence from here. Like, even when I was first watching the first one, I was like, oh, this dude that he found, I was like, he's going to be the inventor of the cube. Because you watch this guy that he found, he's not actually a victim. That's why he's just talking about his porn collection. He's not actually given much info about himself. I was like, no, he'll actually know more than what he's letting on. And I didn't mind the first one. I'll be honest. I didn't mind it. I had a bad experience watching it because it was just the only thing I could get on was Plex, and there was just so many ads. I was watching all these super American ads as well, and it was like 5 ads at a time, and it seemed
they go
anytime
hard with that,
a scene was going to be dramatic, it was like, okay, here's 5 ads, and here's how I can retire in America. And
they put it in the weirdest place, right? Like in the middle of a conversation, and it's like 4 minutes of ads, and then the conversation
they open a door, and it's like, welcome to America. And I'm like, So because obviously I've never watched a movie for this podcast with ads in it before, where I was like, this feels weird, and it felt like it was dragging. I was like, okay, this is an hour and a half movie. It's taking a lot longer than this.
It's not the best. We all should have rented it from Video Easy in 2002. Exactly. That's what we should have done.
And kept it. So that's the thing. It is what it is. I enjoyed it, and I think I appreciated it more after watching the next one. Where I was like, oh, you know what, that first one wasn't too bad. Because but I like how low budget it felt. It wasn't trying too hard, which I feel like they get into in one of them, where it's like super high tech. I liked how it was really mechanical looking and stone looking, and just like, okay, this is cool. Like, this does feel sort of low budget. Obviously there's some outside shots of the cubes moving, where this is PS1 stuff and all that, but I enjoyed it, and I sort of liked where it didn't go any traditional way. I was kind of like, I wasn't expecting this dude to do that or turn evil like this, or I wasn't expecting that with this certain person or this guy to end up doing this. And it's weird, and it feels like at some points I could see if I'd watched this when I was young, I'd have nostalgia for it, because I was like, oh man, look at this weird, unique movie I watched. But watching it now, it really feels like I was almost tripping. I was like, man, what movie did I just experience? I was like, it's unique. So, and I like escape rooms. I like that sort of stuff. So I'll give the first one its credit. It was fine. But I think, nostalgia helps a lot.
Sure. Look, I understand the power of nostalgia. I get it. But I think the first one, I don't know. Part of this is nostalgia talking still, but I do feel like it has a lot of things going for it that give it some more longevity over the other ones. Like, there is a lot of practical effects on display here. Like, like some of those early kills, that where he gets cubed, the guy gets cubed. That's a lot of fun. That gets that gets copied by Resident Evil 2 years later. Like, that's something that's been done time and time again. And was this movie the first one? I don't know. It was in my mind. It is in my heart.
Great way to start.
Yeah.
Boom, straight up. This can mess you up.
That's that's exactly right. Like, it's like the point you made about sort of the tactile feeling, and like it feels like they built a set of metal, and there's no fancy things, and even the concepts they try to they never get too really high and sort of flighty with the concepts. They're never like they start to, they use maths, which is terrifying in its own right. So that's all they need to do. But yeah, they never go too. It's both a detriment, but also a strength. They never go too deep into the philosophies that it kind of suggests, and that kind of makes it easier to digest in one way because you're just like, I'm here to see these characters survive. But then, it's also, I don't know, I'll bring it up at some point, I guess. But yeah, nostalgia aside, I do just think it's a simple joy. Like, this movie is just survival mystery horror, like, distilled into a fine 90 minutes.
But
like, it's insulting to say this is like Mighty Ducks. It's insulting.
No, Mighty Ducks is a classic. But like, I think here's the thing. I've watched the Saw movies, so obviously they're inspired from this. So there wasn't anything in here I was like, oh my god, this is crazy. Because I've seen where this influence has led. It's obviously like, oh yeah, I've seen Saw, and and Saw goes, to the next level with it in a way.
Yeah, the Seinfeld effect. Like, you've seen everything that's inspired by it.
Yeah, but Seinfeld has that thing where it somehow is the best still of that.
Still example, not. It's not. Seinfeld sucks. Seinfeld's a bad show. Jerry Seinfeld, bad man.
We don't need to keep litigating this. Yeah, I agree with your point, Conan, where it never, I feel like the concept's really great, and then they try to like do some philosophizing about, the nature of the cube and how it came to be, and I feel like it's a very 90s attitude of like, oh, this is just some, public work project that's taken on a life of its own. Nobody's in control. Everybody's just there to get their paycheck. But it never takes it anywhere. It never really reaches any kind of conclusion with it, I feel like. Like, it just kind of is like, here's some possibilities of why this could exist, and then that's it.
That's exactly right. It's the most Gen X-y sort of like 90s attitude of it. It's a metaphor for the literal system.
Yeah.
And, like, don't get stuck in the system, fight against it. It's like, they almost go as far as being like, this is just the system personified.
Yep.
And I'd forgotten all about this. In my mind, it was just like, they're just trying to survive. They're just getting out of those. And so there's sort of the detours where they stop and discuss that. And they're like, who made it? We sort of all there's a really interesting idea there, right? I think, like, this idea of corporate systems being so big that we lose sight and the jobs get lost. And the idea of it coming to life and just sort of getting made is stupid. But the idea of like it being so big that no one can fully grasp it, and so such evil could be committed, is an interesting idea, I think.
Yeah, but I feel like they never truly like commit to that idea or explore it or anything like that.
Well, no, they tease it and then just leave it. It never comes up again, really.
Yeah.
My biggest problem with the first one, and it comes back in all of them, is I find the acting very bad, and the dialogue
not great.
Pretty bad as well.
I think this one, the acting is mostly
There's a couple
okay.
people who are really bad in it, though.
Who do you like the least? Because there is a guy in the first one. He's the nihilist guy. He's like probably the biggest actor in any of these. David Hewlett. Yeah, he's in like, I don't know. I know him from Stargate Atlantis. I watched that show because I'm a big nerd. But
he's fine.
Yeah.
The dark-haired girl, I think, is really bad acting.
Leave like the geek.
Yes. I think she's a really bad actress. And it's like so much cliche stuff where it's just like, she's like, oh, I'm a nerd. Look, I got glasses, and look at me just saying a bunch of numbers. That means I'm really brainy. I need these glasses to see these serial numbers because I got like an X-ray vision glasses, and nobody else can read these serial numbers. But I need the guy's calling me over to put on my glasses to read these serial numbers.
I know.
Because he can't read it, even though it looks pretty big. I can see it from here. But obviously, it's the 90s. But like casting someone to play someone who's mentally handicapped when he's not mentally handicapped comes across as annoying. It's not even. I'm not even talking about politically correctness. It comes across annoying. It comes across like this person's acting like stupid.
All right, let's litigate Rain Man. How do you feel about Rain Man?
No, but it's annoying.
Oscar winner Dustin Hoffman.
But it's just annoying. The character's just annoying, I mean,
he's there to be annoying, though, right? Like
you get a big twist at the end of number 3, which reveals he's actually not just mentally handicapped. He's had a
potentially.
It's a dope way to tie them together. Yes.
Yeah, guess so.
Yeah,
Yeah, we'll get into that when we discuss the third one. But I just found like the noises and just like that. I just found it annoying.
He's kind of supposed to be annoying though, right? Like he's supposed to be a burden on the group.
I get, but then I shouldn't be agreeing with the black dude. like it's meant to be painting him as a villain, but I'm like, no, he's right. Shut the hell up, dude.
Yeah.
And I got sick of them talking. Like I got sick of them talking.
There's a lot more talking than I remembered. I feel like there needed to be like 2 more trap rooms because I feel like in my mind there was more trap rooms than what we got. Yeah. I don't know.
This is an interesting question that comes up for me with the second one, especially, is like the impression these movies leave. Where I was saying, in my mind, this is just 90 minutes of mean, lean trapping, right? Like everyone, and like, in my mind, the whole movie is they walk into a new room. They're like, "How do we solve this?" And it's like this great cat and mouse game.
Yeah,
and it's really not. It's like there is a bunch of trap rooms, but then it's a lot of like discussing.
Yeah,
which trap at the start, trap at the end.
And there's some really good ones like that where they have to cross that room silently. Like that is really tense.
Yes.
That was like chef's kiss. That's how more of what this movie should have been.
Yes.
I do feel like they stumbled over it a bit though.
I do agree. At the same time, it's like they become different movies. Then if this movie is one where it's just escaping traps, it's kind of like Saw. But then you sort of need something else in there as well. Like this movie is a victim almost of its own concept, where to stretch this out to 90 minutes is pretty hard, because if you just 90 minutes of traps, it's like that's actually not a very good movie. It's kind of just like
you don't have the jigsaw or whatever controlling
the
AI. Yeah.
Exactly. So they do need to fill it with like, and this is what I was saying earlier, where it's like they sort of needed more characterization. And to your point, Luke, I agree with some of the acting's bad. Levin and even Quentin, like the cop, they're both pretty bad, and you can tell there is a low budget here with that. I thought the other ones are fine. David Hewlett was good. This conspiracy theorist I didn't mind.
Yeah,
and so all of that, like you can see the limits of the budget definitely. My issue would be like they don't do enough. Even the script I think is fine, because it's like this is 90s, and like 90s dialogue trying to be grungy is pretty bad. Like we sort of cringe at it now because we've had all these movies that do it. I just wish they had done more like. They've done more with the characters, like more turns, more, not even necessarily revelations, just kind of, show change a little bit more. Because Quentin's descent into killer is kind of the only thing that's driving it, right? Levin starts off on his side, but she then pretty quickly is just like, no, I'm not going to kill people. And the rest, and like, there's David Hewlett also, he sort of goes from nihilist to like wanting to save them all.
Yeah.
But there's
room for them to have like some factions and stuff in there, have some interplay between each other and stuff. They don't really go down those paths very much. Yeah.
No, yeah, and there's just some of them are there to be foils and then to die. Like the conspiracy theorist is just kind of there to. It would it would have been good to see her have something where she stops believing in them for some reason, or I'm not going to rewrite it, but it just changes. If they'd all had some growth, some change, that would have been really good, and that would honestly make this movie in my mind, fantastic, 8 or 9 out of 10, but it doesn't deliver on that.
That's the thing, because for the towards the start, Quentin feels like the lead, obviously, and then he ends up being the villain or whatever. But it feels like all these movies really would have benefited from like a really charismatic lead. If you just had someone in there who was a good actor,
like Brad Pitt wakes up.
Oh man, if you had like 90s Tom Cruise in there, like getting out of the traps, sold 100%. Man, this movie would do gangbusters. Would have done gangbusters, but yeah,
you're right. I think it would help a lot. Like you're not wrong.
That's always the curse of low budget films, is that they're always like, and this is what I was saying before. Like these directors, they often make this movie. They make their first movie, and it's like there's potential here, and that's what it always is. The story is like the first movie is like a concept of potential, and this is that. This is one of the best examples of that, of like what a concept with such potential, but budget constraints. And, I don't know if this is his first movie, but one of his early movies. It's like, he's learning. He's still feeling out his skills.
Did he direct all 3? I'm guessing not.
No, just the first one. Yeah. Do you think like indie movies like this, I don't know what's changed, but I feel like we get better performances in them. And then we also get bigger actors willing to slow it, I guess. I feel like there's actors out there who are interested in, this is a really cool concept for a film. Maybe they become an executive producer or whatever, and they share in some profits. But then they also bring their charisma. They bring their acting chops to this film.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of changes. I think that especially is like I was listening to something about Dakota Johnson and how she's been doing that. She made a lot of like small indie films that were really unsuccessful because she was trying to raise that image of herself as an actress, right? And you're right, a lot of actors will do that. They'll star in this like a little indie vehicle for them. But I also think for every one of those, there is like one of those direct to VOD movies like Bullet of Justice, you know, or Dead Man Killing 3.
The Condemned. So good.
Like, yeah, and like there is still that network of ultra low budget genre movies that are just like bad acting, but people will get them because they're like, oh, it's on Netflix, whatever. So I think also since like the 90s indie film sort of boom, there's become a bit of a romanticization where once upon a time it was like indie film you didn't want to do, but once people like, I don't know, Tarantino, Linklater, all these indie directors became the new Hollywood.
Yeah.
Then everybody started going, we want to be part of this cool version of indie film. And that's why you have things like A24 now, which are their whole we're indie filmmakers, but they're mainstream indie film. Whereas I don't know who made this, but like I imagine this was literally these people. There was probably like a producer in a garage.
It's
somewhere.
a Canadian, like the budget was in Canadian dollars. Who's ever seen that before? Like imagine it's some production company in Canada. Like it's nothing crazy. Like you got Cube Libre and Odeon Films. I think Odeon might have been the one that made. No, that's Orion. I don't even know. So these tiny I think Odeon is a chain of cinemas in Canada. I think I've heard of them before actually.
Oh, okay.
And they were producing movies back in the 90s.
Yeah, there you go. And then you got like the Ontario Film Development Corporation. So these very ultra low budget ones, like, yeah, I think this would have been. It's kind of like Australian indie films where they're all kind of bad because we don't have anybody who really wants to commit to it, and so you get like they're half funded by the government, and the rest of it is like $20,000, and you just can't pay great actors with that much money. Even ones who really want to do it, at the end of the day, they've got to put food on the table.
Yeah, for sure.
So, did you guys like the answer to the puzzle? Sort of the revelation where it's like there's one room that's moving around and that's the way out. Did you guys think that was a satisfying sort of conclusion or answer to it?
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm okay with it. I like maths, but yeah, like I don't mind the idea that we've gone through this grueling maze and all we had to do was move one room to the left at the start and we would have been fine.
Yeah,
but it's kind of a kick in the guts, I suppose. But I'm okay with it.
Yeah, Luke, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm fine with it. I'm more just intrigued, like the actual ending where it's like, just bright white light. What happens? What's going on?
What do you think happens?
He probably gets put back in.
It's an Aronofsky. This could have been an Aronofsky movie. This is basically an ending to an Aronofsky movie. You cannot be critical after the last podcast.
Doing The Whale. Maybe this inspired The Whale, actually. Yeah.
Darren Aronofsky is a huge Cube fan. You can just tell.
Absolutely. Look, I did a search on Odeon Films. Requiem for a Dream was made by Odeon Films. So,
oh no way!
Just putting that out there. There's a link here.
All right. Yeah, no.
Also Shaun of the Dead. But anyway, let's.
Oh man, let's do an Odeon Films podcast. Yeah, I find the ending so strange. I forgot about this, but it's like a movie that's all really like, I don't know, climbing through rooms and trying to solve puzzles, and it's just like there's one magic box that kind of slides around, and then the ending just being Kazan survives and goes out. I'm like, I don't really know what it's. I don't know. I don't know if I like.
There's no greater message there. Is my problem with it, I guess. Yeah.
It feels like the ending to a TV show where it's like, oh, what happens next week? Yeah, that's all it feels like. It's like okay, I wonder what happens next.
According to the trivia, they did shoot like a scene where he pops out and he's in the middle of the desert or something like that.
But I also don't really care.
Decided to get rid of it because it didn't work out.
Yeah, I don't know if that's better or worse. Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. It's that issue, like the mystery of the film, which is pretty pivotal, is it doesn't have a greatly satisfying conclusion.
Yeah.
And so I wish they'd done more character work to like make one of the sides of it better. Because if it had all just been characterization, then it's like, who cares about the mystery?
Yep.
Or if it was all mystery. But either way.
You're right. I think, like I said, I think conceptually really, really good. I think it doesn't stick all its landings that it needs to make good on all that concept. But
yeah, for sure.
Still have a lot of love for this movie.
Oh no, still kick ass. Screw you, Luke. This movie rules.
This, I think, Conan, you might have a better opinion of Cube 2 than me and Luke do. Cube 2, or Cube Squared, Hypercube. Do you want the synopsis? 8 strangers awaken with no memory in a puzzling cube-shaped room where the laws of physics do not apply.
That's an important part. The laws of physics don't apply.
But they should apply, damn it, because that's like the worst part of this movie.
You're not wrong. Look, all right, here's my story. I was a young boy, all of 9 years old. My father took me down to the video store to see not a marching band, but a DVD. And I was like, me and my sister were like, hell yeah, this movie, for whatever reason. And so this movie.
You watched the first one?
I said I assume I'd watch the first one. I honestly can't remember what order, but I'm sure I watched the first one first, and then we saw this and we're like, hey, it's the sequel to that movie. We're like, yeah, let's get that.
Yeah, okay.
Either way, this movie has been living rent-free in my head for the past 20 years.
There is a scene in this movie that has live rent-free in my head also, actually.
Yeah, so there are moments where I've been like, Hypercube, like that movie is... And in my mind, it was really cool. It's one of those like low-budget gems that the world slept on. And rewatching this, I realized this is the nostalgia. This is where the nostalgia kicks in where I'm like, no, this movie is just bad, pretty bad.
Yeah.
Like, even then, the nostalgia is not enough to make me be like, no, it's good. It's a bit of a hot mess.
Is the worst movie I've ever seen in my life.
My wife made the same statement at the end of this movie.
All right, that's just
it really truly is.
No.
I was infuriated watching this. And like I know I've expressed anger before when I watched Army of Darkness and like
another time where you were wrong, but
yeah, bad.
But this made me look back on those fond times of watching those movies where I was like, this movie's really bad. Like really, really bad. Like bad acting. It's lost what was nice about the first one. It's lost the grittiness. It's gone
agree with that.
white. It's gone super CGI and therefore looks worse. Like watching this Windows Media Player thing spin in a room for 10 minutes.
Yep.
And they're pretending to be up against a wall, pretending there's something in front of them is not scary at all. And even when the people die, it's not that scary at all. Watching skeletons make love spin in the air.
And that's dope as hell.
That scene, you will remember that scene forever, though.
100%. And as soon as you said that, I was like, it's them people spinning in the middle of a room. I know it. Yes, that's unique. But, man, what a trip.
Yeah.
What a trip. I watched this back-to-back with the first one. So I watched the first one, then the second. Because they're short movies. I was like, cool, I can knock these out in a night. And I was just like, man, what a drop off. It made me like the first one more just because I was like, I really disliked this second one. Like, I get like there's the room of like, you know, the time dilation, but watching someone slowly move and then watching someone talking in fast forward, it's stupid. It's stupid. It's not like, oh, wow, that's unique. It's not doing something unique with time. It's just silly. It's,
They try to be clever. Yeah, they try to be clever, but I don't think it ever really adds up. They're like, oh, I found my watch again. Like, what does this mean? But it just, like, it's all it feels very, very meaningless. Yeah. Like this, I don't know. It's kind of weird how that guy decided to just keep killing that guy over and over again. That's kind of fun to some degree.
I like that part.
Rent-free, baby, rent-free.
Having all the watches on his hand, I was like, that's pretty cool. That's the one redeeming thing from this. But
yeah, I agree, Luke. Like, this movie took everything that was charming about the first movie, like the gritty, practical effects, and just chucked it out the window, replaced it with some weird government. Like, there's not even they don't have roles in this movie. Like, there's no special skills. They're all kind of tangentially related to this person that created the cube, as far as I can gather. But even that, is that true? Because it's some weird government hologram at the end. Like, what the hell is going on in this movie?
Yeah, let's talk about the ending. Let's talk about the ending real quick, because the ending is like kind of the thing that makes me want to punch the screen, right? Where it's like, if the lack of conclusion in the first one was frustrating, this is like just egregious. Because it doesn't even answer anything yet. It's like, she's like, I didn't find it, or she's like, I did find. I can't remember, but then they kill her. It's like, so wait.
She found some little necklace thing, but I didn't even see that come up in the rest of the movie. Maybe I missed the moment.
No, that was the girl's necklace, right?
It's someone's.
It's
necklace.
her neck broken. It's the girl, isn't it?
Maybe.
Breaks her neck. I thought it was her necklace. I don't know, But
But
so she's
why? Like,
lying the
what
whole
is that?
movie, pretending to not be there for a mission. Like I don't
Well, this is
know.
what I can't figure out. Like, are they in the hologram with her? Why is she even in a hologram?
Is it a hologram?
Yeah, or is it like
Yeah.
a?
Well, like the walls drop down at the end, and she's just standing on a puddle or something like that.
But
Right?
so then
Like,
was nobody else in there, or was it all
I
just like
don't know.
yeah,
There's no
Is there
answer to these
bodies in
questions.
that hologram? Did they all die?
no. Like, yeah, exactly. This is the movie. It does that weird thing where sequels can do one or two things. They can repeat the past, like verbatim, or they can completely try to invert it and go, what's the opposite thing, but still try to keep the concept. And this does that, where it's like, it's polished and white and bright, and the characters, like I say, are kind of meaningless and the same. And the thing that weirded me out is it's like they go into like 3 trap rooms. There is almost nothing. Like the first one has a bunch comparatively, but in this they go in like 3 different rooms. It's like there's a time dilation. There is the one where everything becomes a razor.
There's the weird crystal room that takes off the dude's head. Like I don't even know what that trap is.
Yes, no one does. But but even the trap rooms of that, they're like their time. Rooms just get swallowed up by
towards
time.
them, and they just get to the next room.
So it's not even like a trap. It's just like, oh, if we stay in a room, we're going to get swallowed up by time, like monster or something. It's
time crystals.
So they don't even go through. There's not even really puzzle solving because they just go into a room and they're like, "What's here?" And then it's just like the razor blade. It's like we have to stand still, but there's no sort of solving or figuring it out or boot throwing, which is the boot throwing is a really cool thing to use in the first one, by the way.
Yeah. And
it's just like
glad for it to come back.
Yeah, sucking on buttons kicks. Like, what a great idea!
Love it.
But yeah, they just do nothing. It's like because you're right. It's for some reason I don't know. Was physics really hot in 2002? Were people like super into that?
People were really into physics in 2002.
Like, I wonder if this is like maybe it's a 9/11 anxiety. I don't know, but they're just like hung up on being like you said before. It's just the physics of it. They don't do anything though. None of it makes physical, like none of it makes sense mathematically. It's just like time is wrong in this room. It's like, yeah, so explain. They're like, you go slow, I go fast. Or like even the sex room is like, why do they have sex forever, but the other people who come into the room are just like, the other ones who come to the room are watching it, they're like, oh, that's weird. Yeah. It's like, how is this working, and why are there some, it's like, it's like when a 12-year-old would be like, I want to write down all the cool time travel or like time physics ideas I've ever seen on the internet. And they're just like...
And they think it's super high concept.
Yes, like, yeah. And that is what this movie felt like on this watch. I'm like, this is just all these interesting ideas and there is zero exploration or fleshing out or proper...
I don't even think the idea is that interesting though. Like, compare it to something like the thing it reminded me of for some weird reason is Interstellar, where they have to make that decision about, do we go down to this planet?
They're about as good as each other, actually. These
and lose, we lose 10. It takes us 5 minutes, but we lose 10 years or whatever. Like, that's an interesting time travel, time dilation concept. And this is nothing like it's just,
And they had similar budgets, so I don't know why they couldn't pull it off.
I know.
But,
it was weird to me when Nolan was like, I was really inspired by Cube 2 Hypercube.
Cube 2 Hypercube.
That interview exists somewhere, I'm telling you. In all those lists of like top 10 films, he's like, number 10 is Cube 2.
It cracks me up that he's like, the guys at one point, he's like, oh man, he's like, this is so weird. Like, I designed these rooms. I designed a video game with variable time rooms. And she's like, are you happy? People are dying. Like, you did this. And he's like, what the hell? I created a concept for a video game. And it's just like, it comes across super... The dialogue's really bad. Conan, when you watched this as a kid, and you'd rent it from the store, like, did you see the ending and you were like, oh, God, it was like, were you all into it, or...?
I'd forgotten the ending entirely.
So I don't remember hating this movie either, by the way. I remember thinking this movie was an okay sequel.
So that's my memory. So I remember this one being like still a good movie. The things I remember the most are the floating corpses, the guy being like, it's a hypercube. And just that quote, I will say that to myself every now and then when I see a cube, or like in The Simpsons when he draws the, the 3-dimensional shape.
Yeah, I thought of the same.
Yeah, it's like, oh, it's a hypercube. So that happens a lot. And the other one is like the guy going full cannibal. Those are the only things I remember though. Like those three. So in my mind, this movie was like absolutely gonzo. In my mind, I'm like, this is 90 minutes of crazy time travel bullshit where it goes into one room and there's like different versions of each other fighting and like because I think I just saw this thing where he like collects the watches and keeps killing the same dude. Where I'm like, oh, he's hunting this guy off over this side of the movie, whereas there's other time shenanigans going on over here. And in my mind, it was just like really crazy, but it's actually super tame.
And it's super slow and boring.
It is super slow.
Yeah.
But so the
Like-
ending, I have no memory of the ending. I have no memory of any of it else because obviously it was so insignificant that I forgot about it.
There was one point I was like, I feel like I've watched 40 minutes without a trap where they've walked through different rooms and they're still talking, and I don't know what they're talking about. Like, I was like, I don't, like, not even like they're talking in super high concept. I'm just like, it's boring conversations. Like, there's nothing here that's catching my mind at all.
Yeah. Nah.
No, because it doesn't have anything to say about the physics or like the metaphysics. It's just like so they kind of they're trying to figure out a conspiracy, and so they talk.
It gets
a lot
bogged
about,
down in the conspiracy, but the conspiracy goes nowhere.
Yes, because that's it. Because there's like the old lady, and they sort of realize, oh, you were a mathematician or something, and so they're like, we're all here for a reason. It's like, yes, we know that. I don't know. That's not really
These
a
are all
bombshell.
holograms.
Yeah, it's no.
And the blonde soldier chick's just going to get a headshot in at the end.
It is a weird thing to do where a movie that's the whole concept is predicated on like each room having a trap and trying to solve that. Being like, there's not really that many, like they're not even traps, you know, like the floating razor circle cage thing is not a trap. It's just, I don't even know what it is.
In his room, let's get away from it.
Yeah, because it does. Yeah, you're right, because it responds to their movement. So it's obviously a living thing. It's like, there's really not anything to that. There's no way, because there's no way to solve that. There's nothing for the characters to figure out except if we stand still. But like,
Yeah.
it does feel like they kind of took the concept but didn't do the concept. So I'm like, why? I don't know. Why explore a Cube movie if you're not going to be like, there's trap rooms and shit? Why choose this framework to just talk about physics? It's
Honestly, it felt to me like they went to a VFX company and were like, what 7 effects do you know how to do on your computer? And they're like, we can make a spinny cube, we can make weird time dilation, and we can make a funny wave come out of the wall. And they're like, that's it. They're our 3 trap rooms. Oh, and the crystals. We can do crystals. We're done. That's a movie.
Forward people, and we can slow them down.
Yeah, like that's what it felt like. It felt like
VCR remotes.
We're not doing any physical traps. Everything is VFX. What can we achieve with our budget and VFX? Here's the 8 effects you can do. Good luck.
you were probably exactly right, because I'm just like 2002 VFX were still like a
Windows Media Player.
well, like they were still kind of like, I guess companies were still trying to like seeing this as the future, right? Because I guess what you have X-Men in 2000. The point is, around this time, you know,
Matrix.
VFX become Matrix, great example. Like VFX is becoming the big thing.
Yeah.
So I guess you're right. You can see this as like a showcase. Is like, look at our movie. It is VFX, and so people, you can imagine sort of marketing being like, yeah, people will come and see it just on that merit, I guess. But
no, because this was super low budget, so it's not like even back then, like Matrix.
I don't know. It's yes, the Matrix is better, obviously, but I don't know that this was that bad back then. I'm not sure. I don't feel like I have that frame of reference anymore.
yeah, me neither. Like, because I agree. We say it's bad now, but
This
like
came out this came out after Spider-Man.
But the budget, like you got to think of the budget restrictions, right? Like
I know, but that's the thing though. You can't.
But like, think about
can't
horror
do a
movies then. Like,
low-budget
what
thing and be like, look at our
horror
visuals.
movies were doing like VFX like this? Probably not much. I don't know.
yeah. I mean,
Conan?
quick. I
What
don't.
other horror movies were you watching when you were 10?
Too many. I was watching The Crow, right? I was watching The Crow and kicking ass. Really? Sorry, just really quickly. I just realized this. This movie was directed by this guy, Andrzej Sekula. He's a Polish cinematographer. He was the cinematographer for Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction, which is
What a drop off.
And American Psycho, yeah.
an American Psycho, which is nuts. So obviously, cinematography and directing are very different skills.
Stick with
It's not-
cinematography, dude. You did good.
But yeah, like this guy is like, I don't know. He comes from a pedigree. He worked with some important filmmakers. This is a weird thing to be like.
Like I know
wanted
we've
to
talked a
direct
lot
Cube
about
2.
inspiring. Do you think Cube 2 Hypercube inspired Lost with the black smoke monster? Like the thing in that room reminded me of that, and I was like, it feels like it's Lost.
Maybe Lost comes out 2 years later.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe this inspired all of our favorite things.
I like the idea. Yeah, all the great directors and writers are just like, we fucking love Cube.
Cube 2's secret.
There's no Cube in Cube
They'll
2.
never talk about it in an interview, but Cube 2's secret at the
Nolan,
top of the list. They go
Tarantino.
home, they go into their own cinema room, and they play Cube 2 every night. And they're like, yes,
Aronofsky and
Inspiration.
Lindelof are just like, yes, Cube 2, baby.
inspiration.
We used to be a country.
All right. Cube Zero, a young programmer whose job it is to watch over a reality warping cube, defies orders to rescue an innocent mother trapped in one of its rooms. I feel like this movie got it right going back to the concept, right? Like, this is an interesting concept for a sequel, in my opinion.
Yep.
Again, does not deliver on a lot of its promises. But, like, the idea of having two dudes in a room and they're talking about, you know, I'm just following orders, right? Like, I'm just doing what I'm told to do.
Yep.
It's not my fault that action leads to people dying. Like, there's some interesting concepts there.
Look what happens if you don't follow orders.
That's right.
People go in the room. Where did Owen go?
That's right. Like, I don't have a choice. It's either me or them. Like, I don't know. There's some interesting moral quandaries there, and I don't feel like it doesn't ever reach a conclusion about it, right?
I didn't hate this one.
I didn't hate it either.
Simply because the second I saw it was outside of the cube, any scenes outside of the cube to start with, I was like, okay, cool. Because I feel like one of the things I know it sounds like sacrilegious because this is what these movies are about, but like, I was like, I want to know more about the outside of the cube. Like, I want to know who's built this, what this is for, like who's controlling this sort of stuff. So it's not great, but like to get a glimpse of what's going on out something and see it in that different way, I enjoyed that a lot. I enjoyed the lead character in this one as well. You know, much more than anyone in the second one. And yeah, I didn't mind it. 100%. The cubes are back looking exactly how they were in the first one. They're throwing the boot again. I was like, it's good. Like it's taking what it should have gone and gone back to its roots. And obviously, it's a lot more practical effects with the body horror and all this sort of stuff, and people's faces and bodies getting ripped apart and
melting.
Opening scene is full on.
Yeah,
it is. It really is. And straight away, I was like, okay, they're back to the first one, like straight up. And it's a lot of blood tipping out on the floor in gallons and gallons and stuff like that. It's like, okay, cool. But yeah, this is definitely a comeback from the second one. I like some of the stuff that they do. They don't capitalize on it all. I still think it's plagued with bad acting. The guy with one eye annoyed the hell out of me at how bad he was.
Yeah, Jax is such a weird character.
It's so cliched and bad, and it comes across really low budget. Like, I don't know.
It's just it feels really it just feels out of place because like this room, like I say, it's grungy, it's all pretty dark and like very very serious tone. And then this one-eyed cane wielding guy comes in. And it's like, I get what they're going for. They're trying to shake it up and be like, the kind of absurdist like villain who's so rich and powerful and evil that he's almost fun and harmless. But it's just weird. Like,
he's not even at the top of the food chain either. You get that impression.
Yeah.
No,
but I feel like he's totally unnecessary. Like, this movie just works with commands coming down the elevator and over the phone. Like
it's better with that, right? The idea of
it would have been
again a faceless villain, like this monster, this villain that is the system, and they follow orders from everyone. There's a great this movie out of all of them is perhaps not the best concept, but almost the best concept maybe, and has the potential of being like, I don't know, it's because it's such a great idea. That idea of like, why is there a cube? Who else is involved in this? And people watching, and like, there's that experiment. It's not the Stanford one, I'm blanking, but that experiment where they tell someone to, infamous experiment, they tell someone to press a button and it will send electric shocks to somebody. And basically the more and more they press it, because somebody tells them to, they keep doing it and they keep inflicting horrible pain. And the idea is like, they use that to explain the Nazis and all this stuff. That we just follow orders because that's what we do.
Yeah.
And that's such an interesting idea you could explore in this. Like phone calls come in, like, we have to. Why do we have to? And it starts off really strong, and it's like, oh, Owen's on holiday. Like, no, he's not. I know he's in the cube. Yeah. This is going to be great. And then it kind of loses it when they're like, Jax comes down and
100%. Movie
gets
drops
in
off completely. Right?
Dude gets green eyes and becomes some sort of cyborg man.
I don't like the Super Marines. I didn't like that aspect. Like, that's the thing. This has the most potential, I feel like, where it's like, okay, cool, this is interesting. the whole thing, Conan, touching on what you were talking about, like with these classic like observations and experiments of like, these people are observing these people, but these people are observing the observers. And,
Yeah.
it's like, it's the thing, it's like, it's all these experiments that the company, the faceless company,
Yeah.
not this dude with a weird eye who's like super, acting like a
Eccentric
teacher
and-
from
yeah,
Harry
yeah.
Potter.
Yes.
It's like, it's just like, yeah, I would have so preferred he goes in there, the guy who's still in the room gets commands from above, like, okay, you got to do this and purge the rooms. And he's
Now
just
you got to
like,
kill your friend. And it's like, oh shit, do I
He's
do
like-
it? Like, yeah.
Yeah.
he's like, okay, boss, I got to follow directions, and yeah, I just would have preferred that. And them going through trap rooms and him knowing the rooms, being like, this is an easy way to beat this room. Okay, we can get touching on the first one where the quiet room, like there's ways around it. Like he can't avoid all them all because they're trying to beat them by placing traps where they shouldn't be. And he's using his knowledge to try and get through them. It would have been a much stronger movie, in my opinion. But yeah.
Yeah, like I was hoping for this sort of like cat and mouse game to develop where he's like, okay, this is room X3. This is the trap. I go through this way. And someone else is like, we have to try to get him somehow. Like that would have been a really cool idea as well. Like his friend has, like you say, his friend's like, I have to kill you because otherwise I die. So I'm trying to do it. Like there's just interesting ideas there that never really get delivered because even when he goes into the cube, yeah, it's just kind of this. It really just becomes a generic sort of like chase where he's like, I don't know how to get out, and then the dude goes commando, and
Well, he's like, yeah, I don't know where the actual, the third exit is or whatever. So it's his knowledge of the cube is kind of meaningless. The traps become. Is there a single trap after that point? I don't think so.
yeah, which is weird because he's depicted as like a savant, right? He can draw incredibly well, really quickly.
He's playing chess across the room without even looking at the board. Yeah.
So it's like hinting at this idea that this guy is so smart, he's going to be able to like solve the cube or like I don't know.
Not.
Do something. Yeah, but he kind of. It's like they forget that he gets in there. He's like, we'll just survive our way. It's like, yeah, it's like what the hell, man? You've had all this time to think of a plan, and you just like it's a weird betrayal of his character to just have him like impulsively go, I better save her with no way of saving her. Which is such a shame. Like it made me so frustrated because like this is a great idea. Like a truly great idea for a Cube sequel.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's too much memory loss as well. Like that's something that wasn't really in the others, right? Like they all had a memory of who they were on the outside. They're not necessarily sure how they got there or whatever, but they, the guy remembers designing the outer shell and the other one remembers the conspiracy with the video game he designed or whatever. Whereas in this one, like they all lost their memory, but she can remember she's got a daughter.
Yeah,
fucking daughter.
So wait, so I got two questions. All right. So first is obviously she gets out. They can't track her down, and somehow she gets her daughter. I don't know where her daughter was, but she gets her daughter back as well.
Where was her daughter that whole time?
Just at home, chilling, watching.
If I can get out of this
Rugrats.
cube, my daughter will appear. We're good.
Yeah, exactly. And we can hide off the grid, and the company can't ever find us because we're super good at it. But also, so what did you guys think of the whole thing about the question that it ends with at the exit?
Yeah, I was going to ask this.
And the no and yes thing. And the fact that we don't ever get an answer to what happens if they say yes as well. I'm intrigued.
And is that the whole point of the cube, to see if people still believe in God?
I found that intriguing, man, but we never go back
their
to
way
it.
through these horrors. That's right. It's like it's an untapped mine of interesting stuff that they
is
just
it
don't do
testing
anything
people's
with.
faith? Like they go through all these horrors. Do they still believe in God after going through all these horrors? No.
Yeah.
Burn in hell. Like, I don't know. It's intriguing,
Is this
and
some
they
sort
never
of
go back to
purgatory? Is this supposed to be a purgatory analogy or something like that? Like, yeah, I think there's something there, and they squander it.
I was waiting for it to come to the end where he gets there and they ask him the question, and he's like, "Yes," and then they light him on fire, and it's just like, "Oh God, doesn't matter."
I was as well. I was the whole time. It's funny, like bringing up again the Saw reference. Like Saw kind of lives and dies on that idea of this guy who's punishing people for not appreciating life and being like, you took life for granted, so that's why you're suffering. And this isn't the first cube, but the same deal. Like there's this question there that I was like, why is that even included? This idea of being like, no one's ever said yes. Like what? There's clearly an idea behind that at least. And it's like Saw made its DNA on that question. This movie just kind of literally puts it in there and just ignores it. It's such a strange choice. I don't know if it's like just to try to get that philosophy button like box ticked
Yeah.
and go, yes, we're very deep thinkers.
Was it setting up the fourth one?
Cube God.
Cube.
What's cube for? What's that? Cube rectangle? Nah, it's not.
Cube
Right.
quad.
Anyway, yeah, it's just a shame. A lot of wasted ideas. And even like the idea that his friend like solves the cube. It's like, what, you know, be cool. He breaks out and starts wrecking shit in the real world or something. Like, I don't know. Do you guys think it's better to not flesh out the lore behind the cube, or do you think it's because these are the two options. One is like completely ignore the questions of why and just be like, we're stuck in a cube. I don't know, let's solve our own personal issues, or let's solve the mystery of the cube. Like,
I think you nailed it, like with the first one. Like, you can ignore what's going on outside the cube if the characters are interesting and there's interesting things happening to them and they have growth and you come to care about them. Like, you can make it a kind of, about the characters, and that can work. I think this movie... I just think it does
a
a
weird
bad
ending where it's like, what happens when they get to the end?
No, I don't mind the ending of this one. Like, I don't. The ending with the girl obviously is very strange. The ending of putting him back into the cube as the, how do I say this politically correctly?
Autistic.
The token disabled person, is interesting. And is he supposed to, like, he's acting exactly like Kazan from the first one? I don't know if he's supposed to be Kazan exactly, but it doesn't matter, but it's interesting. I think that's kind of a fun way to link it back into the rest of the movies. But I just think, I just think the way they answer some of the questions, like by adding the guy with the robotic eye and stuff like that, is just, I don't know. I don't know what they were thinking. Like, it's so much more interesting to not have him and not have like these super soldiers, and I think everything else kind of works.
Yeah,
Like nothing ever happens with the one-eyed dude. Like, it's like his last scene is like, send the choppers, and then that's it. Like, it's just like,
yeah.
I don't know. It's just, it's frustrating. He should never have been there.
I'm okay with like fleshing out the outside world a bit. I don't know if you can ever like,
you don't need all the answers.
Do we need to see the corporation that's at the top and who's making? Maybe we do. I don't know.
Like, what if Jeff Bezos is there and he's like, "How's the cube going?" Is that a better ending, or
was there a post-credit scene? I didn't stay. Like, maybe
no, I didn't either.
Maybe it's Elon Musk.
What if he calls? He's on a three-way call with Elon Musk and Bill Gates,
and Mark Zuckerberg's in there too.
And Mark Zuckerberg's like a young man coming, and he's like, one day we'll make a virus.
They're on Epstein's island, and they just got this
like,
cube under there.
He's like, instead of calling it the cube, how about we call it the Facebook? And then Justin Timberlake comes in and he's like, drop the.
That's right.
Oh, damn.
I think if we ever get a remake, another of these Cube movies, not a remake, because there is that Japanese one that didn't do very well.
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious to watch.
Me too.
I think it is like billionaires are bad guys. I think that's what sells in 2024.
This was my question. I was going to say, what does a remake look like? Yeah, but is that just Squid Game?
It is kind of.
A remake, 100%, is very much like, come on this reality show, and now you're in this experiment.
Because, you're right. Because in 2020 or 2024, we've got like escape rooms, and we have this like awareness of, kind of this like cynical view of like, life is a game, so why not take our life into our own hands for this? Like, does a remake just take that? I really like the idea of a remake being, I don't know, does this movie? Nah, that's a tangent. I'm not going to go down. I like the idea of a remake being just a lot more conceptual about the system, not doing the billionaire thing, because you're right. It's like, it would just be, this is somebody's sick torment where they're just billionaires are like, how do we make it? But that's such a trite, like, that's been done.
You're right.
I just like the idea, like we said, this idea of this, it's just being stuck in a system. That can be a metaphor for the daily grind. That could be a metaphor for any number of things. The system, like government, whatever. But this franchise has a bad history of not really delivering on the concept. I don't know. I don't know why though. It seems like a pretty easy. No, I shouldn't be like, it's easy to write a good movie, because it's not. But anyway.
You're right. I don't know. It is hard in 2024 looking. You're right. Like something like Squid Game, I think, takes this idea and pushes it and kind of does answer some of those questions that you want answered. Like, I think it does do it actually pretty well.
Yeah.
And Saw, like you say, like it lives and dies on that question, and it actually follows through with it and works pretty well too. Like, I don't know. A lot of wasted potential in these movies, I think, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah. First one
But
still
hey,
goes hard. First one goes hard.
I still like it. You're right. I
Hey,
agree.
somehow Cube got a full trilogy. So
And a remake, a Japanese remake.
and a remake
Yeah, I am super curious.
and an anime.
Apparently, that's a lot less of a like a horror. It's much more of a drama,
Yeah, right.
which I'm interested about because that could be the characterization we're talking about.
It's still
But-
like not very highly rated though. Like it's still
yeah, which is a shame. But
it's even
Oh,
lower.
well.
It's even lower than Hypercube. So
Oh God.
4.4 on
Think that could
IMDb.
exist.
that is really bad. Eh?
Hmm.
Eddie. Damn shame.
Damn shame. All right. Pretty easy ranking for me. 1, 3, 2.
Yeah, no question.
Yeah.
Even though I want to say 2 for my nostalgia, I can't.
You can't just one
No.
3 to 2.
Yep.
We agree. We haven't agreed in a while.
Yeah, it's nice.
Feels good. All right. That's Cube. Conan, what are we doing next?
All right. So there's a new streaming service that's just come out about 3 months ago called Broly, and they have the Pusher Trilogy.
The
That's
Pusher
Pusher.
trilogy.
Pusher, Pusher 2, and Pusher 3. They're the Mads Mikkelsen earlier, I think. One of them is directed by Refn, or maybe they all are. Nicholas Winding Refn, Mads Mikkelsen. Like, gritty crime movies that these two big star, big director, they cut their teeth on. So I've been waiting for these for ages, and they're finally available to stream now. So get keen.
You beat
Okay.
me to it.
Has this got to be your pick?
My wife has been telling me to do this trilogy for ages because she's like, you'll blow my. They will have. Conan won't even know what you're talking about. But
I know.
there we go.
What's
There you go.
sorry? What streaming service is it on?
So it's called Broly.
Broccoli.
No, Broly, you idiot.
Broly,
It's
the legendary Super Saiyan.
It's a free Australian one by Umbrella Entertainment. It's really cool. They've got a lot of like they got Lake Mungo in there. Lake Mungo is. I had to watch that on YouTube with Spanish subtitles, but now I can watch it properly.
Well, yeah, my wife recommended because she knows I'm a big Mads Mikkelsen guy.
Yeah,
Mads Mikkelsen trilogy.
Because I have the first one on DVD, but I haven't been able to find the second or third ones. So
The second one's got 100% on Rotten Tomatoes.
it's very high. Okay, jeez.
Pusher. All right.
Pusher
Cool.
3's got 93.
I've never even heard of these movies. I also don't have. I'm not attracted to like Mads Mikkelsen like you guys are.
I
but
am.
That's okay.
It's like, what are you, some sort of straight man?
Some kind of heterosexual. No, I just
Mega straight.
I like him fine. He's fine. I'm just not. I'm
So
not
he-
into him like you guys.
Raiders are
That's okay.
Hypercube.
I might be into him next. Who knows?
Yeah,
this
this'll-
might change my mind.
Yeah.
This will do it.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us for the good, the bad, and the worst. This podcast was brought to you by a book by C.V. Clarke, if you got it there. The God Grotesque.
Speaking of cubes,
The Taste of Iron.
there's
Get
no
'em on.
cubes.
Get on an Amazon. There's no cubes in these one. Very little technology, but lots of horror. Lots of gruesome deaths.
Yes. Yeah, Cube directly inspired that, I guess, actually. Faces melting.
To some degree, it must have.
Yeah. Subconscious.
Is there people having sex spinning in the air for centuries?
You know it.
Yes.
Every good trilogy has that. All right, thanks for joining us. The good, the bad, and the worst. Please rate us on Spotify. That seems to be where it makes the biggest difference, and iTunes. Tell your
like
mum
and
about
subscribe
us.
on YouTube.
Yep, and we'll catch you next time.
Peace.